Yeah. Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. Let's see what we have today in the first editorial of the Indian Express, June 15, 2023. So the cap doesn't fit. Let's see what this cap is. The Narendra Modi government has imposed stockholding limits on wheat, bringing back a restriction last clamped in August 2006 and withdrawn in March 2009. So, if you do not understand the meaning of clamped, at least you can understand the meaning of withdrawn, right? So, if it is taken back, it had been clamped earlier. So, it had been applied or imposed. But there's a difference. The 2006 order capping the quantity of wheat any trader or processor could keep was in response to a fall in domestic production and depleted inventories in public warehouses. Amid spiraling international prices. Spiraling international prices means the international prices were rising up. We have done this earlier also, like a spiral. That means increasing very rapidly. And because the prices were increasing rapidly, what was to be done? There was a cap. That means a limit, a constraint on the quantity of wheat any trader or processor could keep. Right? And this was because of वो उसको response कहते हैं. It was in response to a fall in the domestic production. That means the production reduced, prices spiraled. And therefore, what was required was a cap. That means a limit to the quantity that any trader could keep. Right? Now, this time round, the Agriculture Ministry has estimated a record of 22-23 crop of this much million tons. Also, government agencies have procured 26.2 million tons of grain in the current marketing season. They have procured it, they have already bought it. Although below the all-time high of 43.3, it's more than this much bought last year. At least you don't go to the data in this when you're reading, when you're solving the RC also. When you're focusing on the data means this is the reasoning, right? Data would be the reasoning or the support that the author would give for strengthening his argument. So what his argument is, one, agencies have procured this much, right? And this is more than what was bought last year. And export prices are down from the this much levels of a year ago. Export prices come here, right? So data, if there's a question asked, then you can go for it. You know where to look for the answer. So the main point here would be that the capping, whilst I'll be joining dots now, capping on the quantity here, the warehouses, the government has already procured. That is it. That is the main point here up till now. Stockholding limits. It raises the other questions, obvious questions on the rationale for the move. That why has the government applied this cap? ये रहा उसका move or rationale means the logic behind it. So the author is now trying to understand or help us understand why so. Is the government worried about the southwest monsoon, which has so far registered 52% below normal rainfall? While the monsoon season extends from June to September, the prospects of rain and by extension for the Kharif crops planted during this time have seemingly been clouded by El Nino already declared by leading global forecasters. The combined stocks of wheat and rice are comfortable for now. Comfortable for now means abhi tak ke liye to theek hai. But the fear is probably of a subnormal monsoon that may result in a not so good 23-24 paddy crop. Paddy is rice, right? So the combined stocks of wheat and rice abhi tak hain, theek hain, chalenge. But there's a fear. that this may not be sufficient. But it's that sounding the alarm bell too soon. Now, see, why is the author asking you questions like this? Does he need an answer? No. He only wants to bring our attention to that part. Right? कि क्या ऐसा भी हो सकता है? So, is the government worried about the southwest monsoon? Possible. Is this an alarming bell? Possible alarm bell. Over the last 1 year, the Modi government has banned exports of wheat, broken rice, and sugar, besides levying a 20% duty on non-parboiled, non-basmati shipments. The stock limits on wheat were preceded by similar restrictions on tur, that is pigeon pea, and urad, that is black gram holdings, by wholesalers, small and big retailers, and dal millers. These are not ordinary, precautionary, or preemptive actions. ये जजमेंट है ऑथर का कि ये जो भी एक्शंस गवर्नमेंट ने लिए हैं, राइट, putting a limit or a constraint to the export, all these are not precautionary measures. Preemptive मतलब proactive, पहले से ही कुछ काम कर लो ना, you see something in the future and then you take a step or take a measure to prevent that. ऐसा ऐसी कंडीशन ऐसा सिचुएशन में नहीं आना चाहिए. So these are not ordinary precautionary or preemptive measures, rather they convey a single-minded focus not to take any chances with food inflation ahead of the national elections in April-May 2024. This is what the author understands from the actions of the government. उसे क्वेश्चंस पूछे कि आखिर गवर्नमेंट ऐसा क्यों कर रही है, यहाँ पे उसने अपना रीजनिंग देकर अपना पॉइंट भी दे दिया that all this is because they need to keep in hold the food inflation. So for now this is okay, below normal monsoon hai, right? Is the alarm bell too soon? Then this is not ordinary precautionary preemptive measures, but it is a single focus so that there is no food inflation before the national elections. Here I have joined the dots. This approach is also disturbing from another standpoint. Now he is coming up with the another side of the coin. That means एक और view कि अगर ये approach है author का, ये approach है government ka, is if this is the reason why the cap is being imposed there, then it is cause for worry. What is it? It shows the Modi government's lack of conviction in its own farm reform laws that were touted as a 1991 moment for Indian agriculture. How can the farmer unions and the opposition be blamed for their repeal when the government itself has violated their provisions and resurrected the ghost of the Essential Commodities Act? Equally concerning is the credibility of the official production statistics. So, official production statistics, whether they are credible, authentic hai ya nahi hai. Believable. Cred means believable. If Indian farmers have harvested a record wheat crop, why impose stock limits that, if anything, are symptomatic of shortages? That means if there is a stock limit imposed by the government, it is a symptom that there is a shortage of the crops, right? So a stock limit is a symptom of shortage. Last year too, the government claimed a bumper production and yet banned exports. Conviction and credibility are central to policy making. Conviction, credibility. Both are unfortunately all too often missing when it comes to agriculture. न conviction हो सकता है, न credibility हो पाती है पूरी agriculture के मामले में. That is what the author is saying. Right? So now in this part of the paragraph, the point would be that this approach of the author of imposing the ban, imposing the cap, right? This is a cause of concern. That means it is disturbing. Equally concerning is whether it is credible. So equally concerning में conviction and credibility पर question आ गया, right? So they are coming up with the approach. They are questioning the credibility of this, And they are also saying that stock limits are symptomatic of shortages. So now what can be inferred from it? So what the government has done, the action of the government, it is putting a cap on the stocks, right? What the author is inferring from it, or what else can be understood from the passage. Right. So when they are talking about credibility, when they are talking about the symptomatic of shortages, so that means what? यहाँ पर कहीं पे भी कोई भी क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, इस पार्ट पर एक assumption वाला क्वेश्चन बन जाएगा तुम्हारा, right? So that means what did the author assume when he said this stock limits, that if anything are symptomatic of shortages, that means whenever there are shortages, they would be imposing the stock limits. राइट सो व्हाट कैन बी अंडरस्टूड कि अगर स्टॉक लिमिट लग गई है या गवर्नमेंट ने लगाया है स्टॉक लिमिट कैप लगाया है इसका मतलब शॉर्टेजेस होंगी राइट सो दिस इज व्हाट वी कैन इन्फर एंड व्हाट वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम द पैसेज लेट्स कम टू द मेन आइडियाज सो स्टॉक होल्डिंग लिमिट्स वही हो गया स्टॉक लिमिट्स ऑन व्हीट अमिड एस्टिमेट्स ऑफ रिकॉर्ड क्रॉप so this is like contradictory राइट पैराडॉक्सिकल सिचुएशन हो जाता है यहाँ पर पैराग्राफ में भी बोला था उसने कि रिकॉर्ड क्रॉप है अगर प्रोडक्शन अच्छा है राइट सो व्हाई इज देयर अ लिमिट व्हाई इज देयर अ कंस्ट्रेंट राइट क्वेश्चन है लिमिट या कंस्ट्रेंट क्यों है इफ देयर इज अ रिकॉर्ड क्रॉप व्हाई इज देयर अ कंस्ट्रेंट नाउ द ऑथर इज ट्राइंग टू और ही हैज कम अप विद 2 or 3 points the constraint may be because of the election next year so that they can hold the फूड इन्फ्लेशन ना हो इलेक्शन ईयर के लिए राइट दिस माइट बी वन ऑफ द रीजंस सेकंड ही सेज दैट सी देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन मिक्स सिग्नल्स मींस व्हाई इज देयर अ कैप if the cap is there it signals what it signals a shortage now is there a shortage again there's a question author has come up with the limit sorry the government has come up with a limit on the holding of the quantity right now this usually happens when there's a shortage so now is there a shortage because the limits have been imposed again a question here okay if this is all because of the election or coming elections right so now is this a right approach another ठीक है थर्ड पैराग्राफ में उसने क्या कहा था कि ऐसा कब होता है सिम्टोमैटिक उसने कहा था ना शॉर्टेजेस का that was so so you have the record crop you have the reasons that is election and you have another reason that it is signifying or symbolizing something right so here we have the main idea coming to the questions sorry vocabulary so they have claimed or they have like imposed procured is they have got it or bought it जैसे procurement price होती है minimum procurement price होती है ना कॉटन हो सकती है सोयाबीन हो सकता है wheat का हो सकता है whatever price the government gives to the farmers and they buy the crop the production rationale is the logic clouded is like covered conviction is the belief the confidence touted is like to declare it very loudly ठीक है बार बार बोलना उसके बारे में repeal is to revoke credibility you have this root word cred means to believe in something and symptomatic is you can relate it to symptom right क्लैम्ड अप होल्ड कर सकते हो फासन कर सकते हो अप्लाई कर सकते हो इसका कई सारे मीनिंग्स हो जाएंगे ठीक है प्रोक्योर का मीनिंग आप गेट कर सकते हो बॉट कर सकते हो right? They have held it in that way so that's all for today and thank you and see you tomorrow and have a logical day ahead